the Earth and life. The Earth is a planet within our solar system, as we all know. It is our home, and these human bodies that we live through are a product of her creativity. I say her because the Earth is often referred to as Mother Earth in our Western culture and in many other cultures as well. For example, in Greek mythology, Gaia was the Earth goddess, and this name has been popularised in modern times by James Lovelock, who in the late 1960s developed a theory suggesting that living organisms and their inorganic surroundings have evolved together as a single living system. This idea is still popular today, perhaps even more popular as an increasing number of people begin to look for answers to the escalating problems and global disruptions we face today. In other cultures, the female earth goddess goes by names such as Pachamama, which is Inca, Tonantzin, Aztec, and Buma Devi, Hindu, to mention a few. On the face of it, the reason for this female labelling is no doubt due to the life-giving and nurturing qualities of the planet. However, the deeper reason is because it is actually the female principle itself that supports the Earth's existence, the male opposite of its coupling relationship residing energetically as a part of the Sun. This relationship also explains why the Sun is associated with a male principle in many cultures as well. Inti, which is the Inca, Helios is Greek, Ra is Egyptian, Surya is Hindu, and Sol is Roman, again to mention a few. When we speak of the Earth, it must be remembered that it is a conscious creative being, not just a lump of rock with some organic matter on the surface. The Earth's entire expression extends out far beyond the Moon, in the region of the orbital path of Mars, in accordance with the firmamental ratio. Development here is an ongoing creative exploration of possibilities by and of the Earth's own consciousness, and although it is apparently the only planet on which complex life forms have evolved, it is still part of the creative exploration going on throughout the whole of the solar system. Consequently, everything in the solar system is part of the expression of the Sun because everything is under its energetic control. And then our Sun and its planetary system are contained within the greater expression of the Milky Way and therefore subject to the influences and intentions of this galactic being. The Earth formed to what it is today over a long period of time, or at least what is considered to be long from the perspective informed by the process of radiocarbon dating today, which assumes that the rate of decay of carbon-14, or anything for that matter, is a constant. However, there is no real basis for this assumption, and you will now be able to see and understand the reason why. Nothing in the universe is fixed and stable. Everything changes over time. Everything is endeavouring to expand towards the absolute fullness of the unlimited potential of consciousness. Our planet grows in this way as a function of its own intention to be all that it can be. As it does, the vibration of its supporting firmament slows, gravity increases, and the firmaments, the elements contained at the surface, vibrate faster. Therefore, just because something has certain properties today does not mean that it had those same properties in the past. Accordingly, I have coined a new term to describe the measurement of time by radiocarbon dating, Standard Scientific Time, or SST. Further, the vibratory rate of matter is also influenced by human thought, and this will be explained as we proceed. Thus, if the nature of matter can be influenced through growth and thought, how can we ever be sure about the exact or even the approximate age of the universe? And how important is it anyway? Apart from learning the chronological order of events to help us understand ourselves, what real difference does it make to the quality of our lives in this moment, whether the universe is 14 billion or 10,000 years old? The Earth formed as a direct result of passive and active creativity and the ensuing evolutionary process. In the early stages, this creative exploration involved only simple experimentation with various atoms, molecules, and minerals because of the lack of experience and knowledge to draw upon. As the knowledge base increased, so did the appearance of more complex arrangements of matter in the form of amino acids, proteins, and eventually basic life forms. As this evolutionary process continued, and knowledge began to increase exponentially, the simple playing around with possibilities by consciousness led to the emergence of various and very specific ideas. It began to reveal itself as the expression of more and more complex life forms, and eventually increasingly mobile and intelligent creatures that would be capable of expressing and experiencing the creative power and essential nature of consciousness itself. The ultimate expression of that to date on this planet is the human being, which we will talk about at length in the coming sections of this work. At every point in the evolutionary process, the creation and events in the physical world were representative of the best use of knowledge towards the highest expression, growth, and we could also say to the highest enjoyment of the earth being as well, meaning that creativity, the very experience of being creative, is, in reality, an enjoyable act independent of any human interpretation. Creativity is a movement of energy, and it simply feels good to anything that can identify with that movement. We will come back to this idea, but for now, as the earth evolved, it constituted an inner body of virtually countless tiny quanta or beings that were on their own journey of creativity as they grew towards the infinite power of the whole of which they were a part. This is due to our hypothetical fifth fundamental force of natural growth. As some beings grew to take greater control of the matter within them, the structure of the earth formed and evolved. These growing beings were responsible for the emergence of all the elements. The larger a being's size, the more complex the element it could support. Cooperation between each being linked together to form molecules, and in turn the ordered and random patterns of crystalline and amorphous structure, as we discussed earlier in the myriad forms section. Minerals and crystals then began to precipitate from rising magma formed by the immense heat and pressure within the earth body. These joined together and cooled to form rocks that helped solidify and define the shell or surface of the planet. The place where all this could and did occur, as we discussed earlier, is the event horizon of this planet, the place where the expansion of individual quanta overrides the gravitational effect of the Earth. Nuclear reactions within the Earth, caused by energy releases from deep within the core, created earthquakes and volcanic activity that further sculpted the surface of the Earth as mountains and valleys. The valleys filled with water, the inner region close to the surface filled with various gases, thus forming the atmosphere, and as each day passed, weather patterns began to develop as heat from the sun evaporated water from the seas to produce clouds. This moisture, releasing as rain, began to erode the created form of rock to produce soil. Wind became a phenomenon as gases in the lower atmosphere moved according to temperature differentials over the entire globe, and as each day passed, the sun channeled energy in the form of heat and light radiation to the evolving planet. These were the general conditions that form the geological and meteorological systems, those which are studied and well known to us today. But in the early days, all was bare on the earth. There were no plants and flowers, and there were no life forms yet. As some of the tiny beings of the earth continued to grow and expand, out and away from the solid, dense forms of fixed rocky structure and into the fluid medium, specifically into the lakes and seas of the Earth Mother, life forms began to emerge. Experimentation in and with the fluids eventually produced a solution known as protoplasm, a substance containing all the ingredients that form the physical basis of life as we now know and label it. The natural gravitational force generated by these beings, or life seeds, arranged the protoplasm as a density at the core to become the nucleus of the first simple cell. These first single-celled life forms, commonly referred to as unicellular organisms, go by names such as protocells, protista, protozoa, and other prototype names, all from the Greek meaning first, indicating that they are considered to represent the very first forms of life. Experimentation with and within these unicellular organisms, in conjunction with all other knowledge gained from universal experimentation, allowed for the expansion of consciousness and the expression of more and more complex and creative forms. New organisms began to emerge as simple methods of propulsion were investigated towards increasing mobility. As mobility increased, so did the opportunity for the organism to be more effective in interacting with and influencing the environment in which it dwelt. And as more and more forms appeared, and also disappeared, with increasing level of complex structure, the ability for them to navigate and explore the surface of the Earth became increasingly possible and also very interesting. Remember that the Earth is consciousness just as you are, and one trait of consciousness that you will be familiar with is curiosity, being a function of the growth force. In any creative process of experimentation, as possibilities arise, so does curiosity, or perhaps it's the other way around, or both. But either way, consciousness is curious. It wants to explore and play, and so this was the essential nature of the driving force behind the development of all the species on Earth. The way in which this development occurred, the way in which scientists today try and piece together the past to explain the now, is, in the end, inconsequential. It is highly unlikely that anyone will ever know the exact details, and the ultimate lesson to be learned here is to see that the way in which things came and went was only ever an investigation of possibilities in the earth matter, not unlike a child might play around in a sandpit and explore the possibilities of what they can make. Some ideas are interesting and worthy of further exploration, and others are not. Many creatures have come and gone throughout this explorative process and will continue to do so because that is the way of things. Among scientists today, there seems to be a feeling ranging from that of bewilderment to concern around the disappearance, the extinction of various creatures over the millennia. Whilst there is no doubt that humans have contributed a great deal to the demise of many species in recent times, the coming and going of various life forms is something quite natural and necessary, and therefore arguably nothing to be too concerned about. Regarding the extinction of dinosaurs, for example, the reason for it would have amounted to the Earth being telling itself something like this: I'm losing interest in the dinosaur thing. They're not so much fun anymore. They're just too big and awkward. I've got a much better idea, and I'm far more interested in exploring and developing these mammal forms now. Of course, it would not have been verbalized this way because the words were not available, but the intent would have been in that direction. And then, how did it happen? By what means did dinosaurs cease to be? Was it meteor, solar flare, poisoning, or something else? How important is it for us to know? The way in which it happened is akin only to the way our analogous child might choose to make their sandcastle creation in the sandpit no longer exist for them. Kick it over, squash it with a rock, pour water on it. In both cases, it comes down to the fact that there is a unique mind of a being behind the forms that are created and destroyed. And in both cases, it is always a process of learning and or enjoyment. Before leaving the subject of the extinction of the dinosaurs, and just for the record, the origin view is that the dinosaurs became extinct because the Earth experienced a quantum shift. New energy came in as the realization for a new idea emerged, the development of the mammals, and there was a quantum leap, an expansion to a higher level. Effectively, this shift increased the gravitational force on Earth, which in turn killed the dinosaurs. They were destroyed by gravity, perhaps losing their balance, falling over, or falling from the skies never to rise again. Yes, it is possible that this increase in gravitational force attracted a meteor that may have helped things along, but in the first place, it was expansion gravity that did the job. The simple unicellular organisms that first appeared on Earth were, in effect, one-celled brains, the first simple externalization of the Earth's own intelligence. As more complex life forms evolved, control centers developed as more sophisticated and separate organs in the continuing process of exploration and sensory realization of the Earth creation. It would be accurate to see that the brain of a creature is always the intelligent focal point, and its body evolves towards the greater mobility of its brain. When the first simple creatures ventured out from the waters onto the land, they were challenged by the intensity of sunlight and other harsh environmental conditions. Consequently, it would have been extremely difficult for them to survive. But the Earth responded from within, from its inner world of mind, and in conjunction with the creative guidance of universal consciousness to which it was inseparably linked. Protective shells and skins were developed from the knowledge of existing suitable materials, The way this was achieved is a process of continuing growth and adaptation to the environment by a life form or species. That process is known as evolution theory, specifically Darwin's theory of evolution or Darwinism, and it is sufficiently accurate as far as the outer description of what can be observed is concerned. But what seems omitted from the theory is the fact that life evolved intelligently from within, by way of the vast psychic communication network of the Earth being, and as an exploration of creative possibilities. The development of life forms and the ultimate expression of that here on Earth to date as the human being is by no means an entirely undirected or accidental occurrence. The idea that it is, or might have been, is true to a degree if we consider the passive aspect of creativity in the creative process. Yes, in the beginning there was a simple playing around with ingredients from which certain ideas arose, but it is from those ideas that an active creative process could be directed towards bringing specific creatures into existence. Without this direction, it is highly unlikely that any life form could have ever assembled itself satisfactorily and survived. The odds are just almost completely against it. For example, proteins are a very specific construction of parts and an essential ingredient in a living organism. For one simple protein to be made, 1,000 or more amino acids must be arranged in a very specific order. A complex life form such as a human being is only possible because several 100,000 different kinds of proteins have been made in this way, and further, they must then interact with each other and get along sufficiently so that a successful functioning organism can exist. One of the best analogies ever given for the idea of life emerging by accident alone was first offered by the controversial English astronomer Sir Fred Hoyle, and later summarised by the popular writer Bill Bryson in his book A Short History of Nearly Everything. Here it is stated that the chances of even one single protein forming by random event is akin to a whirlwind spinning through a junkyard and leaving behind a fully assembled jumbo jet. The formation of life forms, although there is a random event to it, is ultimately something that is controlled by intelligence. The Earth is a creative being, a powerful source of this intelligence. It is a firmament, formed by the movement of consciousness back and forth from the centre to the periphery that occurs somewhere near the orbit of Mars, and it is the controlling consciousness of all matters within it. As such, the Earth is aware of everything that is going on at all times. The best way to appreciate this complete awareness throughout that the planet has would be to see how you, as the consciousness in your own body, are also aware of the many things that are happening in you at any given time if and when you turn your attention to it. That is to say, it is possible for you to feel what is happening in your toes, your nose, your hands and chest simultaneously, for example. In fact, it is possible with practice for you to feel everything that is going on in your body in any given moment, and it is in this same way that the Earth feels and knows what is happening throughout its entire structure all the time. As a creative being simply playing around in the matter, the Earth experimented with various life forms and species. The results provided valuable information and the opportunity for new ideas to emerge, for small refinements to be made as physical mutations and diversification within and throughout each species. Because of this total knowledge of what was going on at any moment, the mutation of existing species and the appearance of certain new ones is something that was not always specifically local. In other words, the expression of new ideas could, and did, appear instantaneously across the globe from time to time. Following the appearance of these new forms in this way, each would then adapt to its specific environment and provide a broader range of experience for continued learning. The Cambrian period history is one of the best examples of this kind of mass appearance of life forms simultaneously across the globe. It is a period many millions of years ago when suddenly a great number of new and interesting forms appeared in countries far apart and separated from each other by the seas. It is a period considered by many paleontologists to be a time when an unprecedented amount of experimentation with biological mechanisms took place, and from it, the basis of almost every creature today has its place. Because of the intensity of activity at the time, this period is known as the Cambrian explosion. So, To begin talking now about the emergence of the human being, we are of the species Homo sapiens, meaning wise man by most definitions, descendant from the earliest hominid forms that broke away from a line of mammals about 85 million years or so ago, SST, Standard Scientific Time. It is generally agreed that the first ancestors of this physical form we now live our lives through, Homo erectus, meaning upright man, appeared a few million years ago. The first modern human types turned up around 70,000 years ago, and it is the ingenuity and adaptability of Homo sapiens that has led to it becoming the most influential species on the planet. This is, of course, a very quick overview of the emergence of the human form, but it is not the purpose of this work to go into any greater detail. The purpose of this work is to indicate the dynamics behind the emergence of the human being. Once those dynamics can be seen and understood, there is a far greater chance that the historical details can then fall into place accurately, and there may be a great opportunity for the anthropologist or historian to finally piece it all together with confidence. So the big burning question is, how and perhaps even why did we, the likes of you and me, come to be out of this playing around in the matter that was going on throughout the universe and specifically on this planet? The answer is this. The human body is simply the best that consciousness can create here on the Earth in this solar system at this point in time. Best in the sense that it is the most advanced vehicle through which consciousness can express itself most fully. The intellect and dexterity of the human being is the externalization of the essential nature of the consciousness that created it, and this allows for a vast range of creative expressions, experiences, and feelings. The idea of humans being made in this way is captured simply and accurately by the words once again found in the opening chapters of Genesis, where it is said that God created man in his own image. The details of how this creating of humankind as individual creators in the likeness of the universal creator itself, and the dynamics involved that now influence the quality of our experience as human beings, is a fantastic story of unfathomable intrigue. It is the deepest mystery and most fascinating sequence of events that have ever occurred in the experience of humankind and the universe. Revealing and understanding the essence of what happened is an essential part of this work because it explains the root cause of the ever-increasing challenges that we find ourselves facing today, from basic unhappiness through mental illness to climate change and war. Next, we tackle the enormous task of understanding how and why we, as modern humans, have come to be.